Thank you, sir.
Good evening to all of you. Rajva, can you start? If you can start, then it will
Yes,
be
sir.
better
We will wait
because
for
so
more 10 minutes. Uh, we will start at sharp
Hmm?
6:10 so that all the participants can join. Sir, Shamik sir is also present here.
Okay, okay. Shamik ji, very warm welcome to this webinar, and
Thank you so much, sir. Just
uh,
turn on the camera.
we all feel very happy that you will share your things, your struggle, your things to our students, so they
Thank
may
you,
get
sir.
some
Really looking
ideas.
forward to it.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Shamik ji. Okay.
Let's do it.
It's a deal.
Yeah, baby. Let's do
I love
it,
you.
guys.
Thank you
Hit
so
it.
I
much.
love you, man.
Let's do it.
It's a deal.
Let's do it.
Yeah, baby. Let's do
I love
it,
you.
guys.
Thank
Hit
you
it.
so
I
much.
love you, man.
Let's do it.
It's a deal.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to greet Dr. Ashish Sharma, ECell Faculty Advisor, for joining us today. Thank you, sir. Yeah. We all must have enjoyed the first season of Shark Tank's India, right? Spam yes in the chat box if you were thrilled to watch the aspiring entrepreneurs pitch their business models to a panel of investors and convince them to invest money in their idea. One of the most remarkable idea was the smart helmet, which enabled us to connect to our people if we met an accident. Without much delay, let us welcome co-founder and CEO at Altor Smart Helmets, Mr. Shamik Guha.
Hello. Hi. Am I visible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for devoting your time to us. When everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. With this quote by Henry Ford, let us begin today's evening with the first question. You must have come a long way before Shark Tanks. A lot many changes must have gathered in your life, right? So what would you like to comment on it? And more specifically, business after Shark Tanks?
Sure. So yeah, of course, as you said that, it has been quite an overwhelming journey, of course, right? So I always keep talking about this that these are very specific events like Shark Tank and all of those things, and probably it's a little difficult to gauge how exactly it changes your work, right? Because the next day you still have to get up in the morning and start going to work with your team and get the work done. So for me personally and for Altor, what we've realized is, and I'm sure it's the same for the other startups also, the main difference maker is the reach, right? That marketing reach. Because what has happened is, because of the Shark Tank, now there is almost, I would not say a national audience, but to some degree an international audience as well. Indians all across the world, they have seen the show and they have enjoyed it really well. And that has really helped in spreading the word out. So for something that we are doing, we always believe that as more and more people get to know about this, they get to know about the safety requirements, the need for safety and all of those things, it's better, right? So that actually has happened for the show, and we are really, really very pleased with the response that we have received so far. It's been amazing.
Of course, that was a very cool idea. You were one of the very few pitchers who impressed all the sharks and got offers from all of them, which is an achievement in itself. So how did you feel when you saw all the 5 sharks were interested in Altor and were literally fighting with each other to invest in your idea?
So it's again, it's a funny story because see, because it's mostly students, right, in this session that we have today. So I would like to actually, spend a minute on this and just highlight the fact that it's very important to give your best for a preparation, right? So when students go for an exam, when they try to, crack whatever, an examination, something, a project, anything, we often start thinking about the result, how exactly it would turn out, what would the glorious end result be. But if we just focus on the work, right? So what we did as a team during and before the pitch also, we were really fixated on, okay, this is our business. We know our business the best. We know what we want to do. And, we would just try and convince them with whatever we have. And let's not take any additional pressure that we have to impress him or whatever. So we went there with a very genuine preparation from our side. And that is important. So that's why I want to actually share it, that preparation determines everything, literally everything that you do, right? If it's an exam, if it's a project submission, if it's some sort of things that you want to do, all in all, it's dependent on preparation. Of course, a few may argue that 10% is luck. Of course, I'm not denying that. But that 90% is your own preparation. So for us also, what we really focused on is preparing to the core. What exactly needs to be told, what are the points, the questions that can be asked by the sharks. And honestly, very honestly speaking, once we went there inside the tank, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to gauge what will happen because it's just a 1 hour session with 5 completely unknown people whom you have not met before. And things can go any side, like it can go good and it can go bad. But very luckily for us, and because we were that well prepared, so what we have seen on TV is a very 15-minute short clip of the episode. Actually, the session lasts for about an hour. So during that 1 hour, whatever we were asked, we were very, confident and prompt in answering them. And where did that confidence and promptness come? Because we were prepared. Because we had been spending hours in figuring out what the numbers would be, what questions can be asked and how we can answer them. So on the preparation front, we had really given all our 100%. And then we left the rest, to God, sort of, because we will go there, we'll do our best, then let's see what happens. And, as you all saw also in that episode, once we went there and started pitching, all of them really, bought into what we were trying to do. And they were really impressed in the kind of innovation that we were trying to achieve. So that's a bonus. None of us in the team thought that all the 5 sharks would be so interested and, such excited to work with Altor. But I guess we could not have predicted that at all anyway.
Yeah.
So what was important was give your best in preparation and then let's see what happens. And here it fortunately turned out well.
Yeah. It was, of course, all of your hard work.
Correct. And all of us, and that's why I feel for the students who are watching this also, you should really take this as a point that whatever you're trying to do, right? Say I was an engineering student a couple of years back. So I understand very well. That's why I'm always excited when I speak with engineering college students, because it takes me back to my college days when, these problems that the students face today, these were real. And I genuinely believe that, preparation solves most of your issues. And if you're trying to do anything, preparation is what you should focus on.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Business is a fight or continual struggle, just as life. Our audience is really excited to know how all of it started, like your background, the initial challenges you guys had to face, and of course, how did this team get the drive?
Right. So as we mentioned also in the show, that we were all college friends, like friends from college, and that's why again engineering college holds a very special place in my heart always, and it will continue to do so, because that's where you get these like-minded people who are equally energized, young, and enthusiastic about tech or technology in general. So it started out for Altor from our college only. So we were in Kolkata, and we were studying in our college first year, end of first year, second year, when we were already into several projects. We were trying to figure out, because once you go into college as a first year, second year student, you often don't have much clarity as to what exactly needs to be done, how to take things forward. So we were simply, trying to find out what needs to be done, what are the things we are good at, what we're working on. And then this very sad incident happened of a friend's death through the bike accident. That really shook us, like all of us, the whole group. And so it's not this is the first time any bike accident news came to us. So previously also we heard of family members. I'm sure most of us who are in this panel today has in some way, shape or form heard some distant relatives, some friends, some sort of bike accident, because it's very common. So once this story came out or this issue came out, we were really shaken and we wanted to absolutely do something about this. So then of course came the challenges of, because we again were very young. So we had no idea of how to go about in prototyping, what business means. We didn't even know the spelling of entrepreneurship back then probably. So it all started out as a problem identification. That's very important. That is this a problem? The answer is yes. And how do you say yes? Not only yourself, you validate it with other prospective users. So what we used to do is, me and my friend, we used to go out of our college in our college uniform, stand in the middle of the road and just stop random bikers. Even they used to get surprised, why are these college kids stopping us in the middle of the road for no reason? So we used to stop them, we used to ask them, so these are the points we are thinking of as a solution. Would you purchase it? How much would you like to pay for it? These really refined our thoughts and process. And over time, like from second year till the point we were in fourth year, several iterations of the prototype came up. We also took part in several competitions, which gave us that external validation that, yeah, this is something that, it was worth pursuing and going forward. And by the time we completed our graduation, all of us were sure that we are not taking any jobs and we had rejected all the 4 or 5 job offers each of us had. And we took this full time, and then we started registering a company and we took the journey.
Must have taken a lot of courage to take that step.
Now it feels so, but at that time this seemed like the only option because we were so into it. We knew that this is something we have to do. Because if not us, then someone else will do it. And why allow that? Why not us? So that was the question always there.
We have many business enthusiasts and budding entrepreneurs here. Would you like to share some about your business strategies or like any advice to the audience?
So, rather than going into specifics of business strategy, I feel what, is really helpful, and I place myself in the shoes of the students, right? So what would have helped me if I was in there, say first year, second year, something. So I think one of the first things all of the students need to understand, and it's worth understanding that the next decade, as we have all heard from Shark Tank and otherwise, is going to be a decade of Indian entrepreneurship, right? So there are many more ideas and startups that will come up. And I personally am convinced most of it will come from engineering colleges only. Because I genuinely believe that that's where innovation lies at the heart of engineering colleges in all these students. I am not a huge fan of the curriculum that colleges follow. I'm being very honest here. But I love the drive that students have. 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old students who are getting exposed to the world of technology. They have tremendous drive. So as students, what they need to understand, or whoever is starting out in the journey of entrepreneurship, that you have to first find your customer even before making the product. That is super important, because what happens is often innovators, and it needs to be understood that innovation and business go side by side. It's not one without the other, ever. So if someone is really innovative and they're trying to bring out a product, what often happens is they spend a lot of time in building the product, which is a lot of hard work, mind you, right? So the whole cycle of developing, prototyping and all of that. And at the end, they find out that the customer doesn't even need this. So then what was the point of spending so much effort into building this? So it's really, really, and I cannot stress more on how important it is. Whenever you have an idea, even before starting to make a prototype, try and talk to prospective customers. Try and understand how much people would want to pay. And if they're willing to pay, say you find 10 people who are willing to pay for your product, your next target should be make something very scrappy, very basic, that just does the work, and try and sell it to these 10 guys. See if those 10 guys are taking the money out of their pockets and paying. If so, now you know you have something solid. Now spend your time in building this or fine-tuning this. So I think this is one thought I would really want to leave behind with everyone who is listening here, that really focus on the customers first. Try and figure out who those prospective customers are and how much they're willing to pay for it. Then speak with them. Once you speak with customers, you get a lot of understanding, and that helps in refining the product.
Yeah, that was a great advice. That was so cool. We know your product is cool as well. After all, it has the potential to save lives. Would you reveal the technical part of your product? Like how does it work and how things happen in that app?
Sure. So I'll just give a very, it's not that I don't want to share, but it's a lot of unnecessary details. So I'll just give a brief overview. I'm sure that would help. So what we are trying to essentially do is identify rider behavior, right? So, and we have a very strong team, and this is an open invitation to anyone and everyone from this who is listening today. If you feel you want to contribute in Altor, please drop in an email. We would love to hear from you also. So we are trying to build sort of a behavior detection system. Now, what does that do? Whenever someone rides a bike, and this is a very common saying, that even before something happens, you get to know about this a lot back, right? So say an accident happens or someone really, faces a major accident. Most accidents usually happen in a way that is led by bad riding in the first place. So people who are not used to riding well, so people who take a lot of sharp turns here and there, they apply brakes very suddenly, they accelerate all of a sudden very, very rashly. These factors contribute to rash driving, and that leads to accidents. So primarily as a solution, Altor has two aims. Number one, prevention of accidents or reducing the number of accidents. So there we detect riding behavior, rash driving, and all of that. And we send inputs or provide pointers to the rider so that he can improve it. Secondly, if and when any accident happens, there is a detection mechanism. Again, that's completely tech-based, and that enables, the emergency contacts of the rider to find out what has exactly happened to him and to reach out for any prospective help. So this is a very broad overview of what we're trying to do. And all the solutions that we make now in future would more or less be aligned in this direction.
Okay, that's really useful, really helpful. Moving on to the next question. Since you have Ms. Namita Thapar as an investor, are you guys planning to connect with the medical industry or like adding any ambulance facility for the injured person?
Right. So definitely these are parts of the plan. It's very important that as early stage startups or as young startups, it's often very much advisable that you focus on one problem and just try to solve that one problem very well. So we are trying to do that solving the detection problem and riding behavior problem very well. We already are in touch with, several other organizations so that additional help can be provided. As you mentioned very correctly, ambulance services, recommendation of hospitals nearby. These are things definitely that we are looking into. And, definitely our users would be enjoying these sometime in the future. That's for sure.
Okay. We have seen the sharks were so very interested in your product. Do you have regular meetings and all? Like, how is your interaction with them? Do they advise in decision makings and stuff?
Right. So, the two sharks who we chose, we absolutely, drop dead love them because, Aman and Namita, both of them are super cool individuals, and they have been very clear on this right from day one that, we are investors and you are the founders. So the company has to be run by the founders, the business decision has to be taken by the founders, and the founders are responsible for whatever happens. The investors, of course, they're putting in the money. More importantly, whenever we ask for an advice, they always oblige and help us, right? So already I've met both of them in person, and we have had several rounds of meeting already as to, the points of advice that we are seeking from them, because they bring in a lot of expertise in terms of, years in business, connects, networks, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we are very much closely in touch with them, and they are acting as the perfect investors by allowing the founders to operate the way they want to. But whenever asked for advice, they always help.
We all were very impressed and glad to see all the 5 sharks were interested in Altor. What made you choose Miss Namita and Mr. Aman over Mr. Anupam, Mr. Ashneer, and Mr. Piyush?
Sure. So this is again a very, very interesting question. And so far after Shark Tank, whichever session I spoke in, everyone asked this. So, I understand this is something really people want to know. So we had something very clear in our heads, right, when we went there. So we need to understand that this was the first season of Shark Tank, right? So we had no prior understanding of how these guys are. Like if anyone knows Shark Tank US, they know that if any startup goes to pitch there, they already have a very good profiling of what each of the sharks bring onto the table, because the show's been running for the last 10 years, 12 years or so. But in India, this was the first season. So there were very little information out before the episodes aired and so on. Now, of course, there is a ton of material available. So anyone who's going into the next season would have very clear targeting. for us, based on very little information that we knew, we 100% wanted Aman on board. Definitely. Because why? Because he had this whole expertise of running an electronics product company and, the whole marketing expertise and so on. However, what happened once we started pitching, Namita connected with the product very much. So the moment we started pitching, within 10 minutes, she was like totally into it. She understood the problem really well. And she was very enthusiastic about what we're trying to do. And as partners, as investors, you always want people who are super enthusiastic about what you're trying to do. And they really believe in this, right? So that's what made us choose, Aman and Namita, and we are so happy that we did that, because, we couldn't have asked for better partners with us, going forward. And that's being proved with the after Shark Tank experiences as well.
Yeah. We have our Vice Chancellor here. Thank you, sir, for joining. Moving on to the next question. As we have seen that Altor Smart Helmets has got a marvelous investment of 50 lakhs for the company and two amazing sharks like Ms. Namita Thapar and Mr. Aman Gupta backing them. I would like to ask you, how has it been working with them so far?
So it's been great, as I said. So these are really amazing individuals who bring in a lot of business expertise. And whenever so far I've already met with them in person, and we have had several rounds of phone calls and video calls. And they are always ready to help us in whatever advice we need from them. So it's really a blessing to have them in the team.
Mm-hmm. Now, as Altor Smart Helmets has become a successful venture, you must have pitched this idea to many investors and garnered many experiences, right? Would you like to share some of your stories or insights with the young entrepreneurs here?
Sure. So I'll just, again, this is very me. And whenever I speak, I usually try and talk about the challenges more rather than the success points, because success points are always visible, right? Like something like Shark Tank, everyone knows, everyone has seen. But what people mostly don't understand is, in order to reach that one point of success, you have to probably go through 100 points of failure. That's very important. And it's very important for young engineers who are here in this session today to understand, whoever is willing to try out any business venture, any entrepreneurship venture down the line, that for us, again, when we started out, we never had that sort of a huge, like, none of us, all the 4 co-founders, none of us come from business backgrounds. None of us have, so to say, a huge family backing that will constantly let you do what you want to do in life, and you don't have to look for jobs and stuff. Because I'm assuming most students like me and my team, we all belong to the middle class of India, right? We are not from that very affluent society where, there is a lot of parental support, there is a lot of monetary support. So, for middle class, normal, ordinary Indians, it's very important to understand that probably at the first go, your parents won't be convinced about this. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Because you need to understand that your parents are from a generation where these things were not there. They never had these sort of exposures to go and try these out as career options. And when parents advise, is always for the good of the kid, right? So not necessarily they are saying to disappoint you, to discourage you. No, what they want is their kids to be safe. So even if you don't get the full support from the house at the beginning, take that up as a challenge. So every entrepreneur, according to me, should take this as a challenge to convince the parents, as a part of the project, because those are 2 people whom you have known for the last 20, 22, 25 years, whatever. And, that, like, when you get to convince them, that gives you a sense of confidence that, yeah, okay, now I've convinced 2 externals, and I'll be able to move out. So for us also, the same thing happened when we were in 4th year. We got into the finals of a really prestigious show. It's called India Innovation Challenge. It's organized by IIM Bangalore and Texas Instruments. So we were the finalists of that show, and we had an offer to leave college, that dropped the 4th year. I mean, not entirely drop. We could just come back for exams, but not attend any classes or anything. And we just take this up full time. So none of our parents allowed, none. And we had to drop the idea completely back then. So they were like, we are paying for your engineering, and you want to now drop a year and take something else. That's not in their known sphere. That's totally okay. So we knew we still want to do this. So we waited for 1 more year, and then once college ended, we absolutely took this up as something that we want to do. And then in the second time, once we applied for that same competition, we were very sure that we'll again make it to the finals because last time we did it, right? But this time we could not. So that's again a very important life lesson that if something has happened, it doesn't mean the same thing will happen again. So we then at that point, now it looks like a very big turning point because at that time we were fresh out of college. We could have easily not pursued this. We could have gone back to our jobs and, continued a different life. But we always stuck to this. We knew this had value. And more importantly, we knew that if you don't try, you may fail. No one is denying you if you fail, right? So 90% of the startups in any way fails.
Yeah.
If you don't try, there will be that sense of regret. That is very, very dangerous in life. Like I personally believe whatever you do, right? You can do anything, but you should not have a regret. So if you have an idea, if you want to try it out, do try it out. And fresh out of graduation is probably the best time to do it because you don't have a family pressure. You don't have other worldly things to take care of, a family, a child, whatever. And you are fresh. You have a blank canvas in front of you. So we took that, and that's I think one of the you asked about the major challenge points, right? So that was one, of course. There were many. Honestly, we can have a separate 1 hour session just on the challenges because, as I told you, challenges are the majority. Successes are few, and that's a reality always.
Yeah.
So yeah, during the pandemic also when it hit, because we have a major angle of hardware associated with our product. So it became massively challenging because the entire team had to, get shifted to their homes. They can't come to the lab, and hardware requires a lab for testing, fine tuning and stuff. All of those things really hampered back then, but we made a lot of, good choices during that phase. We focused really on the software front, on the marketing front. The things that were getting neglected, we really took them up at par during that whole pandemic 6 months lockdown phase. And then, of course, the hardware was already to a point. Now the whole system was brought together, and that helped us reach the Shark Tank stage. So yeah, there have been many, many more. And I do personally believe that any entrepreneur at any point in time or in life would have more challenges than success. Let that be a reality, and all of us need to understand this. If you are thinking anything else, you're wrong. As simple as that.
That was a great advice. I would request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Bansidhar Maji sir, to speak a few words about the event.
Hello, sir. It's really wonderful to have you.
Yeah, good evening, Shamik. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much for joining this, the invitation of our students and addressing all of them. In fact, I have also seen your that Shark Tank during that. I was really getting excited that the product what you have designed.
Thank you, sir.
And one very nice things you are telling that there are many more challenges than few of the successes which will come out. So that itself is the crux of any success, that you have failures and challenges in the life. I'm sure our students would have been much excited seeing a young, dynamic and like taking challenges even in the early age to do something different. So my best wishes, and I thank all our students that they have taken this effort. And so sometimes maybe we will look forward to have you in the campus sometime. Yeah, right? Please do come. Where are you located actually?
Sir, I'm currently in Bangalore.
Bangalore. Yeah, that's good. Not very far off. We have a direct flight near to the airport.
Sure. Would love
That's
to.
great.
would love
Thank
to.
you very much. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to the next question. We are thrilled and motivated by all your past stories and the journey of Altor. So what's next? Like, what are your future plans, and what are you going to add? Are you going to add like new features, new services to the product?
Sure. So I would specifically not be, telling exactly what we'll add, but let that be a surprise because people would be excited for that as well. So as I told you, whatever Altor does, we have one thing very sure in our heads, that it would be contributing in some way or shape or form to those two fundamental goals that we have. That is reducing number of accidents, and if any accident happens, reducing the chance of a life loss. So these are the fundamental two avenues we'll always be pursuing. Yes, we are undergoing major changes in terms of the product, absolutely. And again, this is something I believe that young entrepreneurs or people who are starting out need to understand, that it's totally okay if the first thing you make doesn't turn out to be the right product. It's absolutely normal and fine. What is important is that you are persistent, that you are constantly behind this, and you have the ability to make the tweaks and the changes to bring out the next variant, and then the next variant, and then the next variant, and so on. So it's always a progressive and iterative game. So yeah, we are doing some major changes, and I would request everyone to keep an eye. They'll be really excited to see that.
Yeah, we will wait for the surprise. So by this, we have come to the end of our conversation. Let's move on to the Q&A session.
Sure.
I would request everyone to drop down their queries, suggestions, or any questions in the chat box. There's a question. How come your products show sold out on websites?
It's an interesting question. So after Shark Tank, especially, we are receiving massive interest from all across the country, as I mentioned. And currently, we have a short time where we are out of stock. But yeah, the work is already being done in the background, and very soon we'll be back in stock. That's for sure.
Yeah, we have your next question. How would you address the role of adversities for a stable future, and what should be our response to those?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat the question again?
How would you address the role of adversities for a stable future, and what should be our response for those? Can you be clearer?
Role of adversities. Yeah, I mean, we want to know what exactly he wants to know.
Yeah, can you be
adversities in the sense, if he's asking adversities as in difficulties and challenges, then yeah, the challenges and are the pillars that define your journey. That's for sure, as I already mentioned. So it's very important to have these challenges, and not just important, you will have these challenges. Whoever is trying to build anything good, try to do anything good in the world, you will absolutely be faced with adversities and challenges. And yeah, so you have to just deal with them one case at a time. There is no shortcut. There is no simple answer in that.
Yeah. Here is an interesting question. How did you manage to get funding at the initial stage of the startup?
Right. So again, this is something I advise people, everyone who asks me what's the right time to take funding.
Mm-hmm.
And the advice always is after you have one or two customers, or after you have some customers, right? But when I started back in the day, there was no one really to advise me on this. And as I told you, we were really, figuring out what to do ourselves. We honestly didn't have any of these answers. So, and because also it was a hardware startup, so we needed some initial capital. And we were very clear that if we are building something, we would take the pain of convincing others to pay for it. Not necessarily that, you're doing it from your own, because we are putting the work in. So the capital can come from outside. And there, two organizations I would really want to mention who helped us a lot. Number one is DST, Government of India. So we received good amount of grants from the Nidhi scheme, the Nidhi EIR and the Nidhi Prayas. Secondly, we also got a very good funding from IIIT Hyderabad. So IIIT Hyderabad, as we all know, is a premier engineering institution in the country. And they really supported us in our early days in terms of, believing in the cause, believing in the founders, and believing in what we're trying to do. And that's where we received our first.
Okay. Nitish asked that how do you plan to stop someone copying your idea and technology like in China?
Sure. So, I mean, this is something that even if you will remember, Piyush had asked in the tank as well. Piyush also. So, and what I told there, that's absolutely what we are doing also. So, what we are trying to do is, it's very important to understand two things. It's number one, hardware. If you're making something in hardware, you cannot stop China from copying it ever. That's really, see, what often happens is people, give false hopes. So I don't believe in false hopes at all. So what's clear is clear. China will copy it. That's for sure. So now what are we doing to still prevent Altor's position? That's the important question. So number one, we are trying to partner up with major brands all across the country, both bike brands as well as helmet brands, so that the word is out already. People already know that Altor is the brand to be associated with. Like a very simple example would be, all of us, I'm sure every city has this local electronics market where if you go, you will get 50 rupees headphones, very much available all across India. But still, why do people buy Boat's headphone? Why do people buy JBL's headphone, right? So the important thing to note is, get that association in the minds of the customers that Boat headphones means good headphones. Similarly, it needs to be put out that Altor's product have that trust, it has that reputation, and whoever is paying for it knows what they're getting. So what is the problem with Chinese unbranded products? You don't know what you're getting. It can last till your lifetime, or it can get expired next evening. I mean, that's the range at which Chinese products go about. So building that brand, getting that word out, partnering with important players in the market, those are some of the steps that we are taking in order to tackle this.
Okay. Tanisha wants to ask why the name Altor.
Great. So this is not a lot of people ask this. So this is again something we thought of right from the starting. As I said, that our aim is to protect, to safeguard, lives and facilities in general. So Altor is in Greek mythology one of the gods who is also a caretaker. It's more of a name for a caretaker, a protector. So that's why we felt that this would be very, very synonymous with what we are trying to do. So yeah, that's where it started out from, Altor.
There's another question. How to choose right team for a startup?
I'm sorry, could you come again?
There's a question, how to choose a right team for a startup?
Great. And very important question. The reason being, I think that is the most defining aspect, right? So if you don't have a good team with you, or if you don't have people who are believing into your vision, then it's definitely bound to fall apart at some point. So even if you manage to take the first 2-3 years, it will definitely fall apart after that. So so it's very important to have, I believe personally, it's very important to have co-founders in the company. Like, don't get me wrong, if there is a solo founder who is absolutely confident that he can do everything on his own, great, go ahead. But as an advice, I always suggest to people that, take co-founders, and finding co-founders, the best place is your engineering college. Trust me. I mean, there were other students working here. This is the place where you meet like-minded people. Try and find out. So here, network helps a lot. Try and speak with people. Try and understand what people are trying to do. So I'm assuming in an engineering college, there are at least 500 to 600 students across several branches and everything, at least, if not more. Try and meet with as many as you can. Try and talk to several people. Try and understand through common points of contact. So first, you need to understand what is the idea that you want to work on. Next, you need to divide. Okay, so in order to get this idea done, A, B, C are the 3 kinds of work that needs to be done. Right? So for example, say for something like Altor, there needs to be a hardware angle, there needs to be a software angle, and there needs to be a business development and these things. These are the starting. Later on, you will have to have several other departments, but that's not important right now. What do you need to start? Now, once you have identified these 3 channels, now look for people who are good in each field. So this is the same way we got our co-founders as well. So, you need to understand who is good in hardware. Use your contacts, use Facebook, use Instagram, right? All of us spend tons of time every day in social media. Might as well use it for something good. So there are people, there are groups, there are organizations. Just post up something, if you don't have anything else. Meet up with people. You will definitely find, like-minded individuals who are willing to work. That's really the first step. So once you have those guys who are willing to work with you, then you should start out with the product and the customer validation and all of those things that we mentioned. So yeah, that should be the goal. Please use your network in your college. That's the best way to find performance.
Sucharita asked that, are you planning to tie hands with automobiles company?
Yes, absolutely. And as I said, we already are working with a few of them.
Yeah.
Definitely it will increase down the line.
There's a big question by Flavy. What if Shark Tank show wasn't in the role now, the way the hype of Altor helmet now is? Then what marketing or promotional measures you and your team would would have thought for the product to reach the people?
Great question again, because I think it's one of the first one or two questions when you ask that, how has Shark Tank changed? I told something similar because I genuinely believe in this, that why I am a massive fan of the show. Number one is I personally watch, like I am not into TV series, movies at all. So there is nothing literally that I've seen. And when there are conversations with friends, I often have nothing to talk about in those things. But one thing that I've dedicatedly seen over the last 2-3 years is Shark Tank. So I literally know every episode in the US Shark Tank. I even watched Dragon's Den, UK, Canada, and all of those. Shark Tank Australia. And I really love the format of the show. I really feel that such a show has a tremendous role to play in the development of an economy. And that's why all those countries, US, UK, Canada, Australia, they're doing so well. Because at a prime time slot, a show like Shark Tank is always being aired. Now, in India, of course, this is what Shark Tank happened. We as a startup or as a participant never knew that it's going to blow up so much. Like even today, just in the morning, I was talking to a friend that, now there are often, like, one of the other friends who are also a startup in Shark Tank, and they also secured funding. So now it's gone to such a point that people are stopping you once or twice in the road and asking for pictures. That's really something I personally never imagined, and I don't think anyone ever imagined. So again, that's a good to have. But we as a company, honestly speaking, in terms of what we wanted to do, what we had to do, nothing has changed. Very, very clearly speaking, right? Even without Shark Tank, we would still have, progressed, and we would still have done what we had to do. Yes, with Shark Tank, the strategies were different. The steps taken were different because, again, something happened. But without that also, we would have gone ahead with our usual flow. We are working with these industry guys, the bike companies, the helmet companies, even before Shark Tank. So they didn't even know that we would be a part of Shark Tank. Now that they have seen us on TV, more people are coming in. But yeah, to answer that, without Shark Tank also, Altor would have absolutely progressed in the same way that, it is doing now. The only change would be probably at that time, people wouldn't know of Altor so soon.
Yeah.
Probably they would have gotten to know a little later, once they have it or in some way, shape, or that's literally the only change.
Yeah. Sandeep wants to know, how are you looking forward to collaborate with biker groups?
So, yeah, definitely biker groups are a major, so to say, how do I say, an important player in this whole ecosystem, the biking category. We already are in touch with several groups all across the country. And, we are really the first variant that came out, this fully built-in device. We already had shared it with quite a few groups. They rode with it, they shared their feedbacks. And, we absolutely believe that community, the biking community, is, very helpful for a company like us also, because we keep giving our products to them. They share their feedbacks that helps us in refining it, making it better. So yeah, it's going to be a long, engaging journey, and we are absolutely looking forward to working with them.
Okay. Anshuman wants to ask that what method you use to promote your business initially?
Right. So it's really important to understand that absolutely right at the start, it may not be necessary for you to promote your business, right? So promotion, advertisement, marketing, these come much later. So first, one needs to understand, you have to, number one, identify your customers. Number two, get the product ready. Number three, find the product market fit. It's mostly used as a jargon in today's world, so I'm not sure whether people are very much aware of this term, but it's probably the most important term, product market fit. That is, say you have built a product also, and there are one or two people who are ready to buy it. But say you have made the price to be 1,000 rupees, but people are ready to pay 10 rupees. Then there is no point. So it has to be a fit. So all those things are the primary steps. Once you go to such a point, and any good company, any good brand you look around today, you have only gotten to know their marketing campaigns and everything pretty late. Those guys were working probably 5 years before that, and no one knew. And that's exactly how things work. So promotion, marketing, those things came later. Those would have come later in any way for us. That fundamental work, building the solution and finding the product market fit, that was irrespective, and we would have done even before that, before Shark or after Shark, same.
Yeah. Amartya wants to ask, so you could have easily sold the technology to any of helmet manufacturing companies, but why did you choose to do everything by yourself? That's a very interesting question.
Great question. Very good question, because often as a flip side, it's not that I haven't thought of it once or twice, but because building something from scratch, managing everything is a lot of hassle as well, right? So and as the person who asked the question said very correctly, that it could have been sold off, and there you're mostly out of the hassle. But there the individual's goals come into the picture, right? So today we can literally sell this off today, say for a 50 lakh, 60 lakh, and just be done with it. But we never dreamt so less. So for us, whenever we are trying to put in our effort, the dream is always big. And as I said, right, we cannot ever be sure this will succeed, this will fail. No, that's not the way. But the try should be 100%. There should not be any regrets in the try. And for us, we want to make it big. We want to take it to a much bigger scale where we are making a difference in the lives of those guys. And for that can never be achieved by selling it to another company. So, because then it becomes a part of their plan, and mostly it will be right at the bottom of their plans because they have already 100 more things to take care of. So, it's always something that we focused on, that we want to take this up on our own. And definitely at a point when this has had the impact, or we as a team feel that whatever we had to do, we had done, then we can of course think of handing it out to some other brand, or even not. That's a thing for later to consider. Right now, we are absolutely focused in building it. There's no other thought.
Okay. Since you are a product-based startup, are you going to implement your technologies to other vehicle accessories?
Sure. So these are future plans that we have. Absolutely, we do have it. And for anything, as I said, for anything and any service or solution that solves in some way the main goals of Altor, preventing or reducing number of accidents and reducing the number of deaths after an accident happens. Any solution that helps in that, Altor would be excited and engaged in doing them. But of course, we have our own timeline, and we want to take things. We want to take as much as we can eat. So there's often a saying that there is too much on the plate and you're not being able to eat. If your mouth is full, that's not a very good situation. We'll take things one at a time. But yeah, these are definitely parts of the bigger plan. Sure.
Okay. What is the scope of IoT in future? Is this the question?
No, that's fine. That's a good question actually. So IoT, and again, I myself am an electronics engineer. So this saddens me to a great degree to see that all across the country, even in electronics CC departments, hardly any conversation happens around IoT, right? So mostly people are too much hyped about machine learning everywhere. People are just, using those jargons, machine learning, big data, blah, blah, so on and so forth. But people often ignore that for electronics fundamentally, and as long as products exist in the world, it's very important to understand, can any of you imagine a world without products in the next 10 years? The answer is no. We cannot. There will be software. There will be software to drive it. But the world is not being, removed of products as a whole. Never. It's not going to happen in the next 50 years for sure. There will be there will be different types of products. So IoT is and will remain a massive, massive field. And, that's again an area where I feel as Indian engineers, as Indian entrepreneurs, we need to work a lot more. There are good companies that are coming up. But yeah, there is scope for a lot more.
Yeah. We will be taking one last question. What was the biggest risk you took during the start of Altor?
I think that would be leaving the job offers, because that takes away the security in your life, right? So
Yeah.
that's a very, again, we were young, like even younger than what I'm right now. Back then I was 22. So that time, this never came up as a very big problem. Now, when I look back in hindsight, this seems like definitely something where things could have gone either ways, right? It could have, not been entrepreneurship or been entrepreneurship. So we took that call, and yeah, I think if I have to single out one biggest challenge, it would be that.
Yeah. I would request our club coordinator, Mr. Prajabha Mishra to speak a few words for the event.
Yeah, thank you, Alipsa. Uh, thank you, sir, for being with us today. I'm
Thank you, sir.
sure our students have learned a lot through your experiences, journey, and whatnot. Sir, we were very happy. We were eagerly waiting for you to
Thank you.
have you on the board. And sir, let me also tell you about our entrepreneurship cell also. So we have a wing known as Startup Acceleration Think Tank, where we have lot many startups, around 15 plus to 20 startups we have, and they all learned today a lot from you. And they were all really expecting you that someone from Shark Tank and the ones they have seen on TVs and all on reality shows, and also they all wanted to know how you guys made it to the big fortunes and all. And also I would like to mention that our one of our startups, FX UAB, our co-founder Mr. Sugam Acharya, who is in a final years, has now received a funding of $2.5 million, rupees, uh, and as getting a really very nice fortunes from all over the India. And their startup is getting really very what do you say, like
Really
uh,
good to hear.
recognitions around the India. And currently he's in Delhi right now, and with some startup works and all. And also we would like to thank you for giving us valuable lessons that we received today. I'm sure that our vice chancellor sir and faculty advisor sir, Dr. Ashish sir, and all, they all had a really great time with you, sir. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And I would like to have one last piece of advice from you, so for our college and for our clubs and our startups.
Okay, so yeah, definitely. If I have to give one last advice, it would be, enjoy your engineering days. I personally feel this is the time. These probably are the best years of your life, and everyone, for each and everyone who are there, enjoy, have fun. Don't be too bogged by, so to say, the traditional academics in general. Like, there are many professors here. I don't want to, make it sound wrong. Please focus on your exams, your marks, and everything. Those are important. Try and focus on building something that is valuable, right? All of you who are here today in your engineering course in that 4 year should absolutely, each one of you, try to build something. It may work, it may not work, not even important. No one cares. But the moment you build it and you try it, the amount of learning you will get, that's invaluable. Nothing can replace that. So have fun, interact with people, try to know who are working in what sectors and fields, and try to think good, try to think innovative, and implement them. In today's world, if we have an idea, there is there is a lot of resources available to get help from. There are entrepreneurship cells, which, of course, I'm sure guides the students in how they want to take the steps for their ventures or so on. So take all these helps, try and build something new, all of you. And while you do that, that should give you a tremendous amount of learning in the first place. At the same time, if you go for ventures down the line, then please do keep in mind the points that I mentioned right at the start, that you should be customer focused. First, speak to one or two prospective customers, understand from them what they want, how exactly you will be giving it to them, and how much they're paying for it. Because unless someone pays for it, there's no point building it, right? So then it's just a hobby. So if you have that clarity, that is the time you should invest in product building and product development and getting. And all the very best to all of you. I'm really, really hoping that you would have some great entrepreneurs coming out from VSSUT. For sure.
Thank you, sir. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
I hope one day our startup would be reaching out for your help, like
Absolutely,
as
yeah.
in Shark Tank, and one day we will have you on board so that our startups can nurture and proceed to their excellence. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for
Thank you.
being with us
Thank
today.
you for having me. Thank you so much.
Alipsa, I think we can end the meeting right now.
What